Holy cow. This was the biggest win that Ohio State has had in 4 years. 4 years. Since that 2020 Clemson game, I don't think Ohio State has had a bigger win. Let's talk about this. So first off, you set the narrative here. Ohio State backed against the wall. They are completely backed against the wall going into this game. They have a team in Penn State who's undefeated, playing with house money, knowing that they can lose, and they're still probably going to make the playoff. I keep looking to my side, by the way, because I do have the Oregon-Michigan game on, and, I might flip some channels. Georgia, Florida's on right now, too. But for right now, I want to see Michigan get smoked because that'll add to my joy today. So let's start with the fact that this Ohio State team, they came out so bad, like so disastrously bad. Defense wasn't exactly a disaster, but they did let Penn State just move the ball right down the field, take, 7 minutes, 8 minutes off the clock in the first quarter on their opening drive before Ohio State touched it. And on the third play, a third down, I don't know what exactly Will Howard saw, but he didn't see it correctly. A pick six by Zion Tracy takes it back to the house. But Penn State did not score another touchdown. Not another touchdown. I am so happy with how the defense played. Let's break this down. Let's start. So after Ohio State falls down 10-0, they respond with amazing play calling, a lot of perimeter run. They set up that perimeter run, and then they use play action where it looks like they're doing a power read thing, and they end up slipping Emeka Egbuka for his touchdown on the day. And then they get a stop on defense. After they get a stop, they drive right down the field again. This was assisted by what a lot of people will probably say is a bad penalty, but at the end of the day, I am sorry. They get a big stop, Penn State does, on third down. You cannot be getting up and standing over the guy like that. Like, that was stupid. That was just stupid. You cannot be putting it in the ref's hands. I've seen that happen before where it doesn't get called, and I have seen it happen before where it does. And this was an instant where the ref said, I don't like that. I'm throwing the flag. That's ridiculous. Don't be dumb. You don't need to stand over the guy. Go celebrate with your team that you just got a big stop. And Ohio State capitalized off of that Penn State mistake. So Ohio State throws a pick six. Penn State gives Ohio State 15 yards. That ends up leading in a touchdown. Beautiful play call with the fake toss sweep. I thought Chip Kelly in the first half was really on his game. Fake the toss, slip out Brandon Ennis, and they get Brandon Ennis wide open for a touchdown. And I was so happy to see BI get into the end zone. It made the game for me. It just, obviously you want to win. But that game was won with that Brandon Ennis touchdown right there. And the fact that Brandon Ennis was the one that got his number called makes me tremendously happy as a fan who really, really likes Brandon Ennis. He's got great character, fantastic talent, and he's the fourth guy, and they've been trying to find ways to get him more involved. That's one way to do it for sure. All right. After all of that, Ohio State gets the ball back with a chance to put away the game. And they drive right down the field for a third possession in a row before Will Howard fumbles the ball, presumably out of the end zone. I'm confused and annoyed on how Fox does not have a better angle to show whether or not the ball was going over the pylon. But it wasn't a bad call. Like, I was not against that call. I thought that was, you got to make a decision, right? And at the end of the day, it's such a tough call to make. They couldn't have called it wrong. Penn State, when they respond, they drive right down the field. This was where the game was won and lost. Ohio State in the red zone, getting a big interception. It was Davison Igbinosun who allowed the big catch to set him up there. It was Davison Igbinosun who held as well on that big catch. And he comes up with the play of the game. I think that was the play of the game. That interception by Davison Igbinosun, bobbled there by Trey Wallace, broken up by Igbinosun. You could call it whatever you want to call it. And make sure you guys comment, by the way, your thoughts on the game, and I will be responding and talking with you. That interception that Davison Igbinosun had, shout out to number one, biggest play of the day for Ohio State. Get into the half, up 14-10. You get the ball back. Penn State's defense played so much better in the second half. I know a lot of people won't like that opinion, but they did. They really did. And Ohio State ended up countering them. They held Ohio State to a field goal. All right. Making it 17-10. Penn State drives down the field, but gets held to a field goal themselves, making it 17-13. So they trade field goals to start the half. And then this is where things started to look bad for Ohio State. That's where the retooled offensive line, a guard kicking out the tackle, having to defend Abdul Carter. That bit them. They got 3 third-down sacks in a row. 3 third-down sacks in a row. Causing Ohio State to have to give the ball back to Penn State multiple times. But the defense consistently stepped up. They got off the field when they needed to. They got big stops when they needed to. And Ohio State had a chance to salt the game away at the beginning stages of the fourth quarter. They're up 20 or 17-13 still, but they're with the ball. They're driving. They make a bunch of really big plays on this drive. And you see Ohio State yet again stall out. They stalled out. They tried to throw the ball short of the sticks. Not sure if the plan was to go for it. Short of the sticks, where G. Scott Jr. ended up dropping the ball, and they had to settle for a field goal. And when I tell you, man, Felding, he had that much room. That much room. It was a very close kick, but it looked like it was just inside the upright. He made it to make it a 7-point game. So me as a fan sitting at home, I was a whole lot more comfortable. But the creativity by Andy Kotelnicki to find ways to get Tyler Warren in the game. A lot of people are criticizing the play calling. If you get stopped in the red zone, no matter what, it doesn't matter if you called the best 4 plays and it just was not well executed. I literally saw in one of my group chats, if you guys are in here, shout out to y'all. I saw in one of my group chats somebody say, that was just horrible coaching. They got pushed on the offensive line. Like coaching has anything to do with the line of scrimmage being decided, right? That is the Jimmies versus the Joes. That is man on man. You can't do anything other than see if your team executes. And the team that executed after they had creative play calls, got the ball in Tyler Warren's hands, got him on a little bit of power read where he could have either had a push pass to Nick Singleton or he could have kept it, got down to the 2-yard line. Ohio State's defensive line stood up, out-physicaled the Penn State O-line on the first 3 downs, and then it didn't matter what that 4th down play call was. I thought it was a great play call. Guess who had an amazing counter to that play call? Jim Knowles did. If you watch that play, what you saw was you saw an attempt at a pick route, a rub route for, I believe it was Liam Clifford, coming in on a slant, trying to pick the defender. The issue is the defender they picked was not man-to-man with Tyler Warren, number 1. And number 2, they also had 2 guys manned up on Tyler Warren on the play. So Latham Ransom had the outside and Cody Simon had the inside. And Latham Ransom beat him to the spot. Making that play not an option. Aller has nothing to do but to throw the ball to the end zone. And by that point, the receiver was double covered. You can't do anything. Well done by Jim Knowles. And then to be able to take the last 4.5 minutes off the clock by running the football shows great toughness, and it was leaning in to what a lot of people thought was going to be a weakness. But I said in my TikTok, Ohio State's O-line is going to play much better. They're going to find a way to run the ball. And boy, not only did they find a way to run the ball, they ran the ball when Penn State knew they were running the ball. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, and Will Howard with their legs on that last drive and that offensive line push, whether it was a great block on a seal by Josh Fryer, whether it was great push by the interior guys. I thought Carson Hinsman looked so much better than he was last year. I thought Seth McLaughlin played out of his mind, and Tegra Shabola played the best game of his Buckeye career today. And in particular, that drive was the best drive of Tegra's Buckeye career. They played outstanding in the last 4.5 minutes there on offense to salt away the game. They did it without throwing the football at all. They ran out all of the clock. If you are a Buckeye fan, you couldn't be more proud. Now, you take a look at this big top 5 win. People say Ryan Day can't win the big game. Why do we speak in such absolutes? There was a time where Kirby Smart couldn't win the big game. There was a time where Kirby Smart couldn't win a national championship. For whatever reason, people still believe that Kirby Smart can't beat Alabama. Can't. You change one play in these games and you're on the winning side. And a lot of the time, I know for a fact with Kirby Smart in Alabama, it doesn't come down to coaching. It comes to a bounce of the ball here, a bounce of the ball there. With Ryan Day, that's how it was, right? You got into field goal range against Oregon, and you tried to make it more comfortable for your kicker, Jaden Felding, who had himself a pretty good day today. You tried to do that, and you get a bad – I don't even want to say bad call. We don't need to have that argument. But you get a call that goes against you nonetheless. They called Jeremiah Smith pushing off, pass interference, and it moves you out of field goal range. That sucks, right? And it seems like they learned from this late game situation, because that's 2 times now in a row, 2 weeks in a row, where Ohio State was able to win a 1-possession game late. 2 weeks in a row. You could not be happier. And, you know, Joel Klatt said at the end of the broadcast, I still think there is work to be done. But the team you saw today is definitely a national championship contender. They have their signature win. So as long as, you know, things don't absolutely fall apart for them, Ohio State is going to be in the 12-team playoff. I think this locked up their spot in the 12-team playoff. I think if they would have lost this game, it would have been up in the air for sure, depending on what else happens in the country. But your team goes on the road and gets a signature win against a Penn State team who is very likely going to be 11-1. Very likely. This is going to be the only blemish on their record. At Penn State, they're going to be rooting like hell for Ohio State to lose again, but for that to somehow also happen to Indiana. And then I don't really know what the tiebreaker would look like between Penn State and Indiana, since they do not play. Penn State still technically has a path to the Big Ten championship. If Ohio State would have lost, that path would have been over. It would have been done. Realistically, that's true. This was a must-win for Ohio State, and they acted like it. After they threw that pick six, they woke up, and they snapped into it, outscored Penn State for the rest of the game 20-3. After they let Penn State move the football right down the field on them, and after that pick six, they outscored Penn State 20-3. And they probably left points on the field too. You could say that about Penn State too. That is not an excuse. Both teams definitely left points on the field. I would say that both defenses played really well. The pass rush for Penn State really weighed on Ohio State in the second half. I thought that the Ohio State pass rush was a little bit better, but that secondary played really good. The safeties played really good. Both Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs, Josh's older brother. Caleb Downs played outstanding football games. The safeties were the biggest reason why Ohio State won the game. So shout out to them. Or at least, I don't know. I keep speaking in absolutes like that. They are a huge reason why this Buckeye team won. Caleb Downs made so many critical tackles where he was maybe not the last guy, but they would have been able to get, like a 10-yard pop here, a 12-yard pop there. And then they were just one Caleb Downs crazy, just tackle, shoelace, get there, defy angles and be able to get there. Caleb Downs, I saw an Alabama fan say, oh, it's so amazing to see how Caleb Downs has regressed. Buddy, he ain't regressed. He is one of the best run game defenders in America. He just is. He is one of the top 10 highest graded safeties overall. When you go to the run game, I bet you that he's probably top 3 in PFF run grade out of all safeties. He is insane in the run game. Lathan Ransom's really good in the run game too, but he was also pretty good in pass coverage. He allowed one catch for Tyler Warren on a little bit of a back shoulder play that I thought was very well covered, and it was an incredible catch by Tyler Warren. Great players like him are going to just make plays like that. All in all, if you're Ohio State, you're ecstatic. You got the big win. Now the biggest challenge that's going to be next, you still got to play Purdue. You still got to play Northwestern, but you got Indiana and you got Michigan. You haven't beaten Michigan since 2019. Even though 2020 felt like a win because of how much we were able to dunk on Michigan for that season, we still have not beat them since before COVID. So how about you go and get that win? That is super important, not only to win, but to win comfortably at home against the Wolverines. But then Indiana's not going to be easy, but Indiana's not nearly as talented as that Penn State team. They're not going to present problems to Ohio State like that Penn State team. But the good thing is when you're talking about playoff, Davis Warren just dropped the ball. What is that? When you're talking about college football playoff, Ohio State now, because of this big-time road win, as long as Penn State goes 11-1, wins out, they're going to have that signature win, and they're locking the playoff, even if they lose that game to Indiana. It gives them a little bit more margin for error, but that's not what Ohio State wants. Ohio State wants to go to the Big Ten championship against Oregon and beat them in a rematch. That's what they want because they felt like they let that one get away. As far as Penn State, they're going to feel like they let this one get away. Ohio State seems to always make big plays against this team. Michigan just recovered a fumble off of a punt return. That is crazy. Good on them. I think you Penn State fans are going to be angry about this for a very long time until James Franklin is able to do it, and he ain't going to get the opportunity until the college football playoff. And what this game probably did is you're going to have Penn State on the fringe of being able to get a home playoff game. And that's what they want in Beaver Stadium is a home playoff game if they do not get a bye. And now you're looking at it as unlikely that you get a bye because you could look at it, Indiana, it is a little bit unlikely that they do lose a game, but they are not overly talented to where they can overlook anybody. They could lose to anybody on their schedule except for maybe Purdue, I guess. But even that's a rivalry game. So don't overlook anybody if you're Indiana for sure. Now, when it comes to Penn State, though, you're going to be in the playoff. You're going to have another chance. And I thought Penn State was well prepared for this game. I just think Ohio State has more talent. And I think that has been the big issue with beating Ohio State. You could talk about the Michigan games in the past couple of years. Those Michigan teams were really good and potentially cheating. So you shouldn't be that mad. You shouldn't be that mad if you're a Penn State fan. You were very close against this Ohio State team this year, a lot closer than you have been the last couple of years. I will be it, back in 2022, you were up in the fourth quarter 21-16, and it ended up kind of going awry for you in the fourth quarter. But even then, if I'm a Penn State fan, I am pumping the brakes on all this hot seat talk and all this stuff. You were 1 yard away from being able to tie this game in the fourth quarter. 1 yard away. And Ohio State, they have the talent and they had something to prove, and they needed this win more than you did. And it looked like it. I know Penn State players and fans are going to be kicking themselves, wishing that they could have got this win. They're tired of losing to Ohio State. They will have another opportunity against the top 10 team. That's the bottom line. And we'll see what they do in that situation. I think that Penn State team is really good, but I don't think that they have that elite national championship level talent the way that a lot of people kind of talked about them having all week. Finally, I also thought Drew Aller played well, but at the end of the day, the biggest reason why Penn State's offense struggled at times is because their wide receivers suck. They're not very good. Trey Wallace is a really good player. Mari Evans is an all right player. He's a good, maybe wide receiver 3. They do not have a true wide receiver 1. They do not have true dynamic wide receivers on the outside. Ohio State was able to lock them up, and this was a secondary that just got scorched against what I think is likely the best receiving core in America and Oregon. They do not have the receivers. That's why they lost, and that's why I picked Ohio State. And at the end of the day, it was a hell of a game. Great effort by Penn State. And Ohio State, they just wanted it more, and they got it done. See you guys in the next